TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. The Trump administration is cautiously optimistic about prospects for a deal with Iran within the next day. And Houthis claim to have struck yet another Saudi oil tanker in the Red Sea. And the IDF continues to uncover and destroy subterranean infrastructure laden with munitions throughout the Gaza Strip. U.S. President Donald Trump warns the Ayatollah regime in Iran either they reach a deal, effectively succumbing to U.S. demands to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and engage in good faith negotiations on denuclearization, or the United States resumes major military operations against the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, speaking at a Los Angeles airport tarmac before departure, President Trump highlighted that talks with the Iranians are going well, while projecting optimism over prospects for an imminent deal.
We're moving along very nicely. We'll find out. We'll know in 48 hours. They had a very good day. The negotiations were good. The stock market was up tremendously over the last 3-4 days. We set new records today in the stock market. Yesterday, today. I think it's like 78 times now during a very short period of time. So a lot of good things are happening.
It is important to point out that President Trump's voiced optimism came after he had held a phone call with the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is leading efforts alongside Pakistan and Oman to reach a diplomatic solution to the conflict.
As you know, the mediators, Qatar, Pakistan, and now Oman are all working together on that issue. We are coordinating very closely with the Omanis to facilitate the talks between both sides and exchanging ideas and exchanging drafts between both sides. And we, of course, commend the Omani effort in aiding the mediation in this way. They have been taking a very important role and significant role in the past couple of weeks, but throughout the negotiations.
While the negotiators have not managed to secure any breakthrough as of yet, the Qataris continue to signal to the White House cautious optimism for a prospective solution.
Right now, we don't have anything on the books when it comes to direct talks, of course. We are doing our job as mediators along with Oman and the other mediators and Pakistan and everybody in the region in exchanging ideas between parties, but we are hopeful that if we can get a resumption of the talks anytime soon, we'd be able to push forward towards a major deal that would help us walk back into a situation of peace in our region.
Meanwhile, at the U.S. State Department, during a strategic civil nuclear cooperation memorandum of understanding signing ceremony with Paraguay's top diplomat, U.S. State Secretary and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio emphasized that while there are talks on an immediate deal on opening the straits, the, quote, big deal related to the nuclear deal remains the primary commitment of the United States.
Well, I think there's two things to talk about when there's a deal. There's the big deal, which is the one that has to do with their nuclear ambitions. They can never have a nuclear weapon. The president's been clear about that. So the denuclearization of Iran is the ultimate deal. I think the immediate deal, and the one that you see a lot of focus on, is the Straits. The Straits, there are ships moving through the Straits. There's oil moving right now through the Straits. So the Straits are open. Nonetheless, I think that there's a conversation and a negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term as we move towards these longer term talks about denuclearization. And suffice it to say, there's been progress made in those talks, but not finality yet. We're hoping that will happen very shortly.
It is important to explain that the negotiations currently taking place are between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Sultanate of Oman. According to two diplomats who are familiar with the details of the talks, the deal on opening the Strait of Hormuz will be a temporary agreement for the duration of merely 60 days. It will include two separate maritime routes crossing the strait, with the entry route passing closer to Iran's shoreline of the strait, while the exit route would pass closer to the Omani shoreline. And the deliberated agreement also includes activities to remove sea mines that were placed by the RGC Navy in the Strait, the majority of which were placed closer to the Omani shoreline. A critical aspect of the deal stipulates that there would not be any tolls on the transit of shipping in the Strait. However, commercial vessels passing through the Strait would be asked whether they would willingly pay insurance and environmental fees to the Iranians, an anecdote which the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps will likely promote aggressively. Following the 60 days, if by some miracle the RGC manages to comply by the terms of the agreement, a resumption of talks on Iran's denuclearization would ensue. Meanwhile, in Tehran, Iranian supporters of the Ayatollah regime attended a Shiite Muslim event called Al-Ba'in, during the course of which they voiced their objection to any form of negotiations with the United States.
We must definitely keep the Strait of Hormuz at any cost. We should never abandon it, and we should never back down, even if they make harsh threats against us. Even if they threaten to launch a ground or air attack against our country. We should not back down at all. We must keep it because it is our treasure, our asset, and it belongs to Iranians themselves.
Peace cannot be negotiated with someone like him. But if negotiations mean he packs up and leaves the region as quickly as possible, then there is nothing wrong with that. There is no problem with those negotiations if they result in them having no presence here as soon as possible. So to say that negotiations are inherently bad is the wrong thing to say. The very fact that he suddenly comes with a lot of threats and then ultimately comes up with an excuse himself shows that he is using threats as a tool. He now knows that his power does not work. The people are not the kind of people who will back down. When we seek to achieve a great accomplishment such as Iran becoming a global power, in reality, we must understand that it will ultimately come with difficulties ahead. We are going through hardships whose outcome will be an Iran that is not only a regional power, but an international power, and this does not come easily.
Perhaps negotiations cannot resolve this issue. Only war can resolve this issue. I am not in favor of negotiations at all. The economic situation for our people is not good at the moment, but in my view, this situation of neither war nor peace ending as soon as possible would be much better. This way, both the people's situation and the situation of their economy will become clear.
Turning to the Red Sea, where the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen, has claimed responsibility for yet another attack against a Saudi oil tanker in the northern Red Sea.
The Yemeni armed forces, by the grace of Allah, managed to target the Saudi oil tanker Wafa in the northern Red Sea, off the region of Yanbu, using a number of ballistic missiles. By the grace of God, the hit was precise. With this targeting, the total number of vessels targeted by our forces has reached 8 Saudi oil tankers since the start of the naval blockade on July 22nd. Meanwhile, the total number of vessels that were intercepted and forced to retreat and turn back in the Red Sea and Arabian Sea has reached 29 Saudi oil tankers.
Saudi authorities did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the Houthis' claimed attack, which, if confirmed, clearly indicates the Iranian proxy in Yemen is expanding its aggression against Saudi interests throughout the region.
Death to America, death to Israel, curse the Jews. Victory for Islam.
During a mass protest of the Houthis and other Yemeni tribes that support the designated terror group in Yemen's capital, Sana'a, Houthi terror operatives claimed that there could be no peace in the Middle East unless Israel and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia were annihilated.
Every stance taken by the House of Saud serves as a bulwark for the Jews, and all their actions across the Arab world and within Arab nations serve the Zionists. This demonstrates that they act as an advanced bulwark for the Zionists and the Jews. The Arab and Islamic worlds will not enjoy stability and peace until the Jews and the House of Saud are gone.
Turning to Israel's eastern neighbor, Jordan, where a meeting of Islamic foreign ministers was held to, quote, address illegal Israeli policies and measures in Jerusalem, which, according to Jordan, alter the Islamic and Christian character of the city.
This danger is too vast to be contained if it explodes. Therefore, we sound the alarm and call on the international community to act firmly and clearly to stop Israeli violations in Jerusalem and its holy sites, and end the policies that entrench the occupation in the West Bank, destroy hope for a just peace, prevent stability and an end to the catastrophe in Gaza, and deprive the entire region and its peoples of the right to live in peace and security.
It is important to highlight that while the true focus of the foreign ministerial aims at undermining Israel's sovereignty over Jerusalem, the claims of altering Christian characteristics of the city are not only baseless, but are rooted in dishonest hypocrisy, considering that in contrast to Israel, where the Christian community thrives, Christians living in any of the countries represented in the meeting are systemically persecuted, with many of those countries, to include Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Malaysia, among others, effectively exercising the death penalty under the prevailing Sharia law to any Muslims that convert to Christianity. Meanwhile, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan al Saud, who also condemned Israel for so-called Judaizing Jerusalem, seized the opportunity to condemn Israel for what Arab and Islamic countries claim to be Israeli violations of the ceasefire against the Islamist Hamas in Gaza.
At the same time that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia welcomed the announcement by His Excellency President Donald J. Trump to proceed with the implementation of the second phase of the Comprehensive Peace Plan, we condemn in the strongest terms the Israeli military violations in the Gaza Strip, which represent a direct challenge to the agreement, undermine the momentum it created, and serve the agendas of the obstructionists who seek to derail the peace process. The Kingdom also renews its call to the international community to assume its responsibilities and to take practical steps to stop the violations in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and to protect the holy sites.
It is important to explain that the alleged violations related to Israeli strikes against Hamas terror operatives, violating themselves the terms that were agreed upon by all parties to the ceasefire, as well as the destruction of a number of weapons caches, to include a subterranean facility that was just uncovered by the IDF paratroopers, in which a large amount of rockets were located and subsequently destroyed by the IDF's engineering corps. Meanwhile, after a recent deal was reached with Hamas on beginning its disarmament process, the US-led Board of Peace has clarified that any Israeli withdrawal from territories it holds in the Gaza Strip would only begin after Hamas is verifiably disarmed. And while the agreement was publicized and adopted by President Donald Trump via public so-called tweet, Prime Minister Netanyahu emphasized in a statement that Jerusalem had yet to agree to the contents of the deal.
I stand firm in defending our security interests. We will not withdraw from our current lines until Hamas is completely disarmed. That's one. Second, we have instructed IDF soldiers to do whatever is necessary to protect themselves, to defend our territory, and to protect our citizens. Third, President Trump and his team think they can bring Hamas to disarm and demilitarize Gaza. We are examining that. They sent us a draft. We did not agree to it. It wasn't our draft. We sent them our comments. Incidentally, we sent our comments before the media campaign on the issue. That is our position. We stand firm in defending our interests, both wisely and resolutely, I think.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support TV7 Israel, which operates as a non-profit, you can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.